Um, it didn't work out. The players had too much egos to respect him, unfortunately. Suarez, Messi, they were difficult to handle, even under people like Valverde, who were former players. It wasn't going to work with this guy.
And welcome to the BF Parlour. So the BF Parlour is our sports segment on the Shaft podcast. And over here, we get to discuss some of the issues in football. What we also like to do is to do a deep dive into some of the issues happening in football to give fans the perspective that they need and they want. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the rise of Football Club Barcelona. Football Club Barcelona has been the subject of a lot of controversy, stories, and happenings over the last couple of years. We just thought we'd get some perspective on it, what really went wrong, and what really is the leadership doing well right now that has seen them at the top of the La Liga table, off the back of a 4-0 defeat of the Galacticos of Real Madrid at their own backyard, and also overcoming the demons or exercising the demons of Bayern Munich at the stadium of Camp Nou just a week before that, and the rise of individuals within the team and the role that Masia is taking in all of this process. So on today's podcast, I have a wonderful friend of mine who has been a lifelong Kule. He is a lawyer by profession. Also, it will be good to congratulate him because he entered the bar this particular year. But we'll be getting his perspectives on the Barca issue. But first of all, welcome, Kwabena Isiyama.
Thank you so much, Erasmus. I'm glad to be here, and then I'm excited. I'm talking about Barca and not some other depressing issue. Right out there. Because right now, as you see, team like a year.
I mean, I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for so long, but I guess it's harder to talk about the club when like things are just not going on well. So I realized that your energy peaked when I messaged you of the El Clasico. I said, No, but this really feels like the right time to talk about Barcelona because we are seeing some of the positive steps. Like I can imagine that there are a lot of changes which has happened, but it's very difficult to talk about those changes when we are not seeing any tangible results. But do you want to take us through what sort of like the last couple of weeks has been as a Barcelona fan looking at your team demolish Bayern Munich, demolish Real Madrid, and now moving also on top of it.
Let's put now in proper context. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I was saying that let's put what's happening now in proper context. Now, last season ended a disappointment because coming from the previous season, so Xavi's first season, which was I think 2022-2023, that was his first full season. That was the season when Barcelona moved economic levels, sold rights in Barca studios and other assets of the club in the market. Now, a lot of this move said it was unsustainable, but I understand the criticisms, but I also people need to understand that a football club primarily, or let me say like Barcelona, just primarily to win trophies. Okay. So we shouldn't view everything a viewpoint of what is the balance sheet looking like. Those investments that Barca made that enabled the players immediately paid off because we won the league that season. You bought
True.
Lewandowski, you bought Skunde, you bought Rafinha, you got Frank Kessie, Andreas Christensen.
Yeah.
Out of all those signings, the only one that didn't really work out was Frank Kessie. He left after the season. In fact, he scored the winning goal in the Clasico that season. And after that, he
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
So, and because he was free, it's not much of a big deal. Lewandowski has had his low moments, but generally, you really can't say he has been a good transfer. Rafinha is almost one of the best players in the world today, right?
Yes.
Jules Kounde is one of the best players in his position now. Okay. So looking back, long term, maybe it made sense because you look at it from a business point too much, and then by the time you are ready financially to compete, you are like AC Milan. You are struggling to catch up to what you should have been. So I think maybe financially it was a bit too risky. I agree, but in the context of what a football club should be, Barca needed to quickly get back to the highest level and compete. Right. Of course, the previous season, the club had issues. The previous season was expected to essentially replace Kessie, and Gundogan is a better player, like all round, all things considered.
Yeah.
But somehow I don't know what happened, but the team didn't live up to the expectations that the fans had. Now the problem mainly last season was that the defense that the team had in the previous season when the league was won was gone. And so if you look at the stats, the XG and everything, attacking wise, not much had changed, but definitely we're conceding too much. We were too open, too many chances needed, and so the league was lost. But also, to be fair, if you look at the results last season on their own, Barca didn't do too badly. So last season was more of Real Madrid being better.
Yeah.
Because if you look at last season, they lost just like 2 games the whole season in the league.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And so games the whole season in the league. And clearly, they had a fantastic season, irrespective of Barca's defensive issues last season. So, looking at the Madrid team and what they did last season, coming into this season, they added Kylian Mbappe. Like, who adds, like, almost, okay, arguably the best player in the world, because people still have their disagreements with that. But let's say, arguably the best player in the world, to a team that did as well as Madrid did last season. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Barcelona had to let go of Gundogan because I think aside the financial issues which are public, Gundogan also had issues with his teammates after the Champions League exit because he publicly called out Araujo for his mistake, and I think most of
that's true.
the squad didn't kindly to that. And you could see that from his exit. When he exited, mostly the players will go on their socials and post something, but very few players did that. And so maybe the rumor that the squad wasn't happy was true, right? Now we lost Gundogan. Who else did we lose? Vitor Roque came in January, and I don't know what the issue is.
With him, it wasn't like a loss, right? Because he was never team.
Lewandowski wasn't good last season, so people even wanted him to leave, right? Now, Barcelona spent the whole summer Williams. Based on what last season was, Nico Williams would have been the perfect fit. He's explosive, he's fast, he's not flashy, but he's effective.
Yeah.
And he has that bond, Yamal, Alejandro Balde, and all of that, right? Now, Barca can't get Nico, not because Nico doesn't want to come, or that Barca cannot pay the clause, but because financial fair play rules are so tight that Barca has to do some financial engineering to register him. But Nico feels like, look, I'm loved at home. If I'll leave Bilbao to come to Barca, I must be sure that when I come, I'm being registered immediately. Don't tell me that I'll come back immediately. It will be an issue, but we'll find a way to register you. No, if he doesn't get a guarantee, he will not come. Barca could not provide him with a guarantee, so he didn't come. Then Barca and Daniel, and it's clear that was what happened with Nico, because when Olmo came, Olmo then immediately Barca had shell engineering to get him ready later on, right? Daniel Olmo came. I'll raise my hand and say I'm part of the fans who didn't think it was a wise decision, not because he's not a good player, but in my view, we didn't need him in our situation. We needed a left winger, and I thought he was being bought to play left wing, but apparently not. He was being bought to play as what we would call a CAM, or we'll say an advanced interior, or a 10, as you said. Now comes and he doesn't even start the first 2 games. I think he came on at halftime in the
and he scored
the third game down at halftime. Instant impact. Like, his intensity is crazy. His dribbling ability is massive, and he's so intelligent, right?
Yeah.
Rafinha had problems last season because he's okay. So from what I've seen so far, he's a confidence player. If he thinks the coach doesn't trust him, it affects. So last season, and he's recently said in an interview that Xavi kept substituting him on the 60th minute mark, irrespective of how he played. And so it looks like he was playing on his mind, because it feels like no matter how well I'm doing, you will still take me off at this point. What's really the point, right? This season starts, and to be fair, Xavi is the one that started playing him on the left. But that was not too consistent. There were times he played him on the left, he did well, but he did persist with it. But we had seen that he would be good on the left. But Hansi Flick came and decided that this is where I'll play you, because I'm not leaving Lamine Yamal out of the team, and he's our best right winger. So Lamine Yamal on the right, Rafinha on the left, and either Pedri or Olmo at 10. Remember, we started the season with Marc Bernal. Now, Marc Bernal, so one of the biggest problems last season, we didn't get a good DM. Again, we tried to get Martin Zubimendi. Everybody said it's because we didn't have the money. Obviously, everybody knows Barca doesn't have money. So if Barca doesn't get a player, that's what everybody knows. But we've seen recent that clubs with the money when they also didn't get him. So Zubimendi doesn't want to leave to side that. We spent so much effort trying to convince him. He still didn't leave. Eventually, we had a cut price deal for Oriol Romeo for 3 million. He started well, but along the line, he just fizzled out and he got freezed out of the team. To the extent that we had to play Christensen as a DM. Not that Christensen cannot play DM, but why will you buy a specialist DM and play a center back there? Like,
it didn't make any sense.
So the season began. Christensen got injured. We couldn't get a DM. Now, Bernal got injured a few days to the transfer window closing. Nobody even expected Bernal to be who would depend on a DM, but in preseason he impressed. So him and Casado impressed in preseason, but preseason games are not really something that you used to really see this a player who would depend on. But Hansi Flick was so impressed that he was ready to hand the keys to the pivot to these 2 kids. Now got injured after 2 games. Funny enough, he actually got injured in added time, and Flick going to substitute him before. I don't know what happened, and he actually apologized because he said he was going to take him off, but I don't know, something came happen. He didn't, and the guy got injured a few minutes after. Barca tried to get what's his name, Stefan Bajcetic from Liverpool on loan, but I think the deal with Leipzig was advanced, and Liverpool didn't want to strengthen Barca by giving him to us, so it's fine. It fell through, it didn't work out. Now Barca has to depend on Casado at DM and Pedri, which means Olmo has to play the advanced role. Olmo's injury record is not good, so obviously after a few games, Olmo too gets a slight injury. He's out. Pedri and Casado are the only people who can play the pivots. So you have to improvise. You play Pablo Torre
Yeah.
the 10. Torres, talented, but he doesn't have physical intensity. He's lazy, right? So
Mm.
you can't. And Flick's football is high pressing, intensity from minute 1 to minute 90. So your talent is not enough. You have to be in. You are like the only person who will get a pass is Lewandowski. But even him, if you watch him this season,
Even
he
him,
has been
yeah.
far more
Physical.
intense than Javi, right? So
Mhm.
nobody gets a pass. Everybody has to work hard. But the truth is, despite all this, there's no realistic expectation of Flick to win trophies this season at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But Flick comes in and the games we have lost, right? So we've lost 3 games, one in the Champions League, 2 in the league. The first one in the Champions League,
Fluke.
to be fair, when it was 11 against 11, we were still struggling with the intensity. Then we got a red card. Once again, Ter Stegen put a difficult situation. Garcia also makes a mistake because he could have avoided that tackle. I
Mm.
always say that early in the game, it's better to concede and play 11 against 11 and to get a red card. Because
Yeah.
with a red card, you handicap your team for almost the whole game. But 11v11 with one man down, if you have the superior players, you can still come back and win. At least you
Yeah.
can get a draw. Garcia makes the mistake, straight red card, he's off. Eventually, we concede, we equalize again, but 10 against 11 was going to be difficult. We lost 2-1, right? So that's a different circumstance. First loss in the league. So Flick was asked, I think, some days before about rotations. And Flick
Mm.
says, and it is true, modern clubs have technology that they monitor every player's like health.
Yeah.
And so he says, look, I have the data. We have a small squad, but I'm doing my best to give who needs rest when they need rest. So all the questions are about Lamine Yamal is 17, why don't you rest him? Flick says, yes, I know, but I think others need a rest more than him. That's why he has not been rested yet.
Yeah.
Eventually, Flick chooses Osasuna away to rest. The problem I had was not Lamine Yamal being rested, but too many of the starters were rested in one game. Obviously, it was clear that look, the team was disjointed. We lost 4-2. Lamine Yamal came later to score a consolation. We're going to be enough.
Yeah.
We went back into the Champions League, right? So I'll come back to the third loss later. Now, Champions League, after losing the Monaco game, I think we had won. No, the Monaco game was the first game, was it?
Yeah, it was the first time you had ever lost that
The first
season.
good. And I think the next games was against Young Boys, we won 5-0. Then the next game was Bayern. Now, it doesn't matter how well we are playing. Bayern always gives me PTSD because from the 7-0 loss, which I remember 11 years ago, actually, when SHS and
Yeah.
I didn't hear the end of that thing till we finished school because how will you lose over 2 like 7-0? And I remember that was during the WASI time. So, like, of course, the rules were not too strict. Like, at
Yeah.
that time, open, we went
Once
to
we're
watch the
watching
match.
football. Yeah.
Bro, the teasing we went through that night, I will not forget, my God. Then, under Xavi, we were playing our best football in years. We went to Arena. For long periods of that game, we dominated, created clear chances.
Yeah.
Lewandowski will not score,
Missing
Rafinha will
them.
not score, and then we lost 2-0. Then, of course, our season crumbled by the second leg, and so we lost at home again 3-0. So, even when we are playing well, Bayern, for some reason, recently, they've been very difficult. So, I honestly was scared about them. Unfortunately, I'm work early enough to get home to watch it, so I had to be watching it on my app while in the car going and listening to radio commentary.
Oh.
And we started after 2 minutes. Barca was kind of like, "What's going on here? Like, what is happening?" It's like Hansi Flick, don't put me on a vibe you can't maintain. Don't sell me dreams. don't sell me dreams because bro, Bayern have terrorized that for so long. Of course, they equalize us like, hey, okay, let's see what happens. But you could clearly see that this time the team was playing with a different conviction and purpose.
Yeah.
And I am not one of those fans who trash Xavi. Xavi did very well with the situation he was in.
Yeah,
And with the experience he has, it is not his fault that he is not as as Flick or as other established managers. For what he has done so far in his career, he's a good coach,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
One other
definitely.
thing too that I would say from the viewpoint of a Barca fan and the way some of his press conferences went was, I think he was a bit too emotional because he loves the club. He's a Kule at heart before he's a coach. So I think he didn't take logical decisions sometimes, and that affected him. So, for instance, right, when he decided to leave, I thought in the context of the way the season had gone and some of the noises that were coming from the media, it was the best decision he took.
Yeah,
He should not have changed his mind to beg him. He should have left it like that because when he announced he was leaving, it's like a burden had lifted off him, off the
and
players.
the team
Suddenly they
started
were
to
playing
play well.
better. So end the
Yeah,
season on a high and move on to another job. He can always come back to Barca. He allowed them to convince him. He changed his mind. And that time the season was already gone. Nothing was going to happen. Then he did an interview. And what did he say wrong, right? He spoke like as somebody who I think he was just trying to prepare people for the season ahead to put
yeah,
or to take pressure off his players. But Laporta and his board misinterpret, or let me say, they actually rightly interpreted it as no, this thing you are doing, you affect our plans for the summer. We are trying to negotiate a new Nike deal that will probably be the most lucrative in world football. Don't give sponsors the idea that this team we are going to sponsor is not even going to win anything. You
yeah,
are giving us a weak negotiating hand,
yeah,
right? So they didn't take kindly to that. Again, they are going to negotiate with players, convince them why they should come, even if we can't pay them the wages that others will offer them. You don't do that when they don't think they'll come and win anything when they come. So I don't think Laporta necessarily thought Xavi was saying something he didn't agree with. He just didn't want it to be in the public domain from the coach himself.
yeah.
Okay, so these are things you won't mind if a journalist is writing in an article, but you have a problem with it if your coach is saying it in an
Mm,
interview. It's not
yeah,
like a rumor, a newspaper. But it's an interview. Like I think they didn't take kindly to that at all. They had serious issues with that, and eventually they let him go. Now Flick comes in. Now Flick, Laporta's first choice before Xavi.
yeah. I remember.
Some way somehow he get him, but he's always wanted him. I also wanted Flick, even though people didn't. I thought the work he did at Bayern alone was enough. Yes, questions arose after. I don't think that was enough to detract from how good
Good the Bayern team
a coach
itself was. Yeah, the level it
just
got
by
to
the
won
Bayern
the
state,
Champions League.
right?
Yeah,
Just by the Bayern state, and you could see it in his first few weeks at Barca. Funny enough, many people thought, oh, if Flick comes, he will not trust the La Masia boys as much as Xavi did. But obviously, we
yeah,
can see that is not true. He's giving them the opportunities just as Xavi was giving them.
yeah,
And the good thing is, right now, the boys are good. But previously, you see, when you buy a player for big money, you have no choice but to give that player the benefit of the doubt and keep playing him till he's absolutely hopeless before you give the academy boys a chance.
yeah,
So, for example, we bought Coutinho for 160 million euros. We had to play him, play him, play him till it was clear that it would not work. And then you try other players. Now, when you don't have the money, you have no choice but to turn to the academy kids first.
yeah.
Okay, so that's like the bright side of all this because Barcelona hasn't been known to spend well recently anyway when we've had money. So maybe these financial issues have been a blessing in disguise because 100% Lamine Yamal would not be the starter now if Barcelona had money.
Oh, definitely.
We would have kept him in La Masia for a long time till he would have got tired and gotten a move elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Same for Casado. I think Pedro is different because he was bought when we had a bit of money and he was good. But
But even then, you can still
Balde,
pass all of them. Yeah, Balde, Gavi.
yeah, Alejandro Balde, Oh, yeah, the few other
Even
kids have.
Paul Kubasi,
How Kubasi effect. How Kubasi would not start like Barcelona have found some 80 million to buy some centre back somewhere.
yeah,
So
some of these trending
it's like
centre.
the bright side of it. When you don't have money, you are forced to look within your academy.
Yeah,
I
actually,
feel
that's
like there are many other teams where, because of how much money they have, so many talents in the academy are not being looked at. Yeah.
that's actually where I want to start because like there's a huge contrast here. There, I want us to get into the perspective of where the mismanagement um uh, begins, right? With Bartomeu, I'm sure that's his name, because it starts with that Neymar move, right? Everyone talks about that Neymar move being the start of the domino,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you
yeah.
come into a large amount of money and then you buy players like Dembele, Coutinho. There was like an outrageous. there's someone actually made a video like an outrageous number of signings. I remember Malcolm. I remember a couple of like players that just didn't fit the what do you call it, the Barcelona bill, who signed on a trail like this, and when eventually didn't work, how to get rid of them was a problem. And there we just heard that Barcelona doesn't have money and they are struggling to be able to sign players, or they're struggling to be able to get players registered, and therefore they have to sort of resort to La Masia. And it's also around the time where there were just terrible results. Are you able to sort of like give some context to what was happening within that situation? What was the strategy then? And how it forced Barcelona to now focus on La Masia, and how like that switching focus was instrumental in being able to start this revival.
All right. So first off, the financial issues are not a recent thing. The financial issues were there even when we won our last Champions League in 2015. Because you see, the wage bill kept going up. And one other thing was Lionel Messi's contract was huge.
Mm.
But for some reason, other so I'll justify whatever amount we were paying Messi because he was literally carrying the team. Right.
Yeah,
But there were other players not in any way close to the importance of Messi, who were also earning far more than they deserved. So
mm.
even back then, like the other players that were
Paulinho.
there, Paulinho, Vidal, like all those players were on insanely high wages. For a long time, Barcelona had the highest wage bill in Europe. Now, the problem is that with financial fair play coming in and other issues, so like you would have to sometimes take a loan to do this, to do that, but the football revenue is not matching the expenses. And so
Yeah,
over time, it becomes a problem. But Barcelona could still spend because at that time, FFP regulations were not as tight as they are now. So they'll still find the money and spend. Neymar came. I think even Neymar got some renewals. Suarez, we kept, and we didn't know when to move players on.
yeah,
Unfortunately, unlike Madrid, who seem to do that better, Barcelona would keep a player until he's of no value to the team, but his wages are so high that nobody is willing to take him on.
yeah.
So then he's an albatross around your neck because he has a
Remember the
contract. You can't
Suarez
sack him
situation? Yeah, the
because
Suarez
they are
situation.
the same thing now. Suarez, and it always comes to the point where we have to let the person go almost for free because the wages are. So we
Yeah.
did that with Suarez, sold him to a direct rival, and he dunked on us when he met us. Like, so the problems didn't start today.
Mm,
Financially, it was becoming more and more unsustainable. But Tomeo put Barca in a very difficult situation because he couldn't stop trying to spend his way out of it. So his
mm,
solution was to find some money somewhere, buy more players, and hope that the team's successes would make things better. But it's a problem. Now, Barcelona is fan owned, right?
Yeah.
The fans own the club. The president is just an employee. Okay. We do elections. The problem with elections is that politicians always want to
Yeah.
campaign based on something.
Yeah.
So, but no matter how bad the finances are, if we win the Champions League, he's winning the election. So 2015 finances were poor. Barcelona won the treble. Everybody says, Bartomeu should stay. He splashed money on others to run who we absolutely did so much money. 40 million euros then was, and even today, 40 million euros
Yeah.
is a lot of money.
It's still a lot of
40
money.
million euros 10 years ago was a lot of money. Like, he won the elections, even when the finances were not good. But the fans were happy. We won a treble. Why should the president lose his job after we won a treble?
Mm.
Like, to be fair, it would have been surprising to many people that what do you people want?
Yeah.
Now, after it was clear that look, we couldn't buy our way out of the financial struggles, then there were other scandals like criminal cases involving the president directly, some the club, but basically because of the president himself. Remember that Bartomeu. Okay, so let me take us back a bit. Bartomeu took over from Sandro Rosell. Now he was Rosell's vice president. Rosell got
Yeah.
jailed for
Oh.
some of these things. Yes, so got jailed. The Rosell absolutely hates the Laporta guy.
Yeah.
He ran and lost to, but now Rosell took over from Laporta in I think 2010, 2011. Then these guys took over. After Rosell got jailed and Bartomeu, if the fans were not all about results and about principles, the treble
Yeah.
and booted him out. But of course, result he got his job. But the situation became untenable. In fact, he had to be went through the process. So the club
Yeah.
constitution allows that under some circumstances, he can actually get the president to step down and then
Also,
go through processes
correct.
to get a new president. So that's what happened with
Correct me if I'm wrong. I know somewhere Messi was
dignity.
involved.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there was like Messi was involved where people were calling on him to call out the president, and people spoke about a strained relationship, and that the
Yes,
fact
yeah.
Messi was in the club was the only reason why
um,
they were still voting for him.
so I will actually get there. Now, this was before Bartomeu was made to step down as the president because people were a bit tired that the situation is so bad, and we don't even think the way the fans are conservative, they would want such a radical step. So, but Messi is Messi. Messi is like the greatest player in the history of the club, probably in the history of the world. Will we not try to put pressure on him to come out to see it? But I don't think that was a wise thing to do. How big he is, he's a player of the club, an employee of the club. Getting involved publicly in that would have like brought the team to a standstill. So I understand why Messi didn't do that. But eventually somebody took it up and the signatures were obtained and he was forced out, right? He was forced out disgracefully, but if you refuse to live in dignity, that's
Yeah.
the only option. He was forced out. We had to go through the processes, through an election. It was clear that definitely Laporta would win.
Yeah.
Laporta came in. The job that Laporta was supposed to do was so huge. And that's why I don't criticize him too much for the economic levels, because if he didn't do that, to say, okay, let's allow things to organically come back to normalcy, by the time we will get to normalcy, all your star players will leave because you are not winning anything. You can't attract
Yeah.
anybody. You will not be in
And
the
you say
Champions
again,
League. You can't, like, I think to give away the rights, it was a risk. Financially, I wouldn't advise it if I were a finance person. But
Yeah.
from a football point of view, the football club exists first to win. Barcelona is not a selling club. If Barcelona was a selling club, perfect. You say, oh, let's take the financially prudent decision.
Yeah.
But Barcelona is not a selling club. Barcelona exists to win trophies. That's what they pride themselves in. Not let's sell players and no. That,
Yeah.
like that's also good, but first things first, the football side will suffer. Laporta comes. First off, we need a new coach because Ronald Koeman was the president, was the coach then. Laporta doesn't really rate him. Most fans didn't rate anyway. But I think Koeman started well because Kike Setien is the one that led us to that A2 dropping at the hands of Bayern. Setien was terrible. The club was too big for him. The club was too big for him. It didn't work out. The players had too much egos to respect him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Suarez, Messi, they were difficult to handle, even under people like Valverde, who were former players. It wasn't going to
Yeah.
work with this guy. Koeman is a legend of the club. So even if you don't rate him, you respect him,
Yeah.
right? Ronald Koeman comes and look, initially Koeman is doing very well, but along the line, tactical deficiencies began to show.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
didn't go too well. But I don't rate Koeman as poorly as fans do. I think he wasn't great, but was he that bad? I don't think so. Considering the squad he had, I don't think he was that bad. But
Yeah.
eventually, Laporta has to pick his own coach. Now, the guy that Laporta actually wanted, I've already said Hansi Flick.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, right? The person who actually wanted Xavi was Victor Font, but Victor Font didn't win the election. And
Yeah.
it was almost clear that Font was campaigning with Xavi's name, and Xavi hadn't come out to disclaim. So people were like, then maybe Xavi actually supported Font in the election. Because remember, Xavi is a club member.
Yeah.
He's not just a former, he's a club member.
So you have
So
voting
he's
rights
also
and
involved
everything.
in the politics of the club. So people
Yeah.
were like, then Laporta wouldn't bring Xavi. But I don't know what happened. In the end, Laporta didn't mind. He brought him on. Everything was fine in the summer, pulled economic levels, bought him the players he wanted. To be fair, Xavi was very instrumental in getting most of those players because we got Rafinha when Leeds were prepared to sell to Chelsea instead. Same for Jules
Yeah. I think he
Koundé.
was getting on the phone with players and
Yeah,
like, they-
so he will call you himself, convince you, and so he has turned the player's head, right? So
yeah.
the player and his agent go and tell the club that yes, we know you want to sell us to this club, but we want to go here.
Yeah.
That makes the negotiation between the two clubs difficult because the player doesn't want to come. So why should we press on
Yeah.
with the negotiation? In the end, the club is forced to abandon that negotiation and say, okay, you say you want to go to Barca now. Get Barca to come to the table and let's talk. When that happens, Barca have a better hand at the table
Mm.
because it's clear the player wants us to come. The club wants to sell. So you would give us a good discount because you've already committed to selling the player.
Yeah.
That's what happened with this for Rafinha. Remember, we had to structure the deal for Rafinha such that we'll pay in installments and before an installment date, was it the president came to put
Yeah.
out a tweet and
Came
say
out.
on this date if you don't pay my money? I'm like, what's all this drama? Like there's been so much drama at the club for a long time now. That was for Rafinha. Jules Koundé also, I think there was a structure with
Yeah,
details
it's the
for
same thing.
Sevilla. Lewandowski with Bayern, I don't know what the deal was, but there was a
Yeah.
deal, basically.
Bayern wanted
Yeah.
a lot of money, so Lewandowski literally had to push Bayern. He had to publicly come out and say, "Let me go," before Bayern let him go.
Yeah. So again, Xavi spoke to him. I would never have thought Lewandowski would want to come to Barca so much. Maybe because I had not ever seen it in the news that he said he was a
Mm.
Barca fan or anything. And at that level of his career, he had won everything. What more could Barca
Yeah.
in that state then give him that he would want to come so much? So I was clear when he came that he really wanted to come. Again, one thing that helps Barca in these
Yeah.
negotiations is that the city of Barcelona is actually a very nice place to be. The weather is great.
Yeah.
It's basically a nice place to be. So usually the families of the players don't want to leave.
Yeah.
So even if you are not getting paid and you want to leave, your wife and your children want to stay because the city is nice. The
Yeah.
weather is not always rainy or cold. The weather, please stay. Even if you're not
It's
please stay.
historic.
So exactly, and that's one of the reasons why even in those days we were not able to move players on because the players didn't even want to go aside the wage issues, right? So Charlie, it had always been a lot. So I think that summer was pivotal. We won the league. Unfortunately, and I still won't forgive Xavi for this. He bottled the Champions League. That group, fine, it was tough. It was Inter and who? Who else was it?
Was it Bayern, Inter,
Bayern, Inter, and some other
someone
team. I
else?
don't remember.
Yeah, it was a smaller
Yeah,
team.
Bayern, Inter, and another team. To be fair, that Inter team ended up making the final, but I thought we met them. There was a bit of wait.
No, they had to defend for large parts of the game. So I would not even say I'm checking the Barca. I'm checking who they had to play because I remember, even though it was very, very difficult, they really had a chance. Yes, it was Bayern, Inter, Victoria, Pilsen,
Victoria
and
Pleasant. Good.
Yeah, and they finished third.
Good.
Before they had to play United in the Europa
So
League, and even then they had to play Europa. I remember he was hyping
good.
the Manchester United team, the Ten
We
Hag
went
team.
to Europa. Manchester United knocked us out. But he still had his good moments. Now, look, let's not forget we got Aubameyang in January of that season. He came and he absolutely destroyed Real Madrid in the Clasico.
Yeah,
That half season was one of the best half seasons we've seen from a
I've ever
Barcelona player.
seen.
I think
Yeah,
maybe since Edgar Davids. And at this point, my age is showing because I know most people watching this will probably not
don't
even
know
know
who
who
the
Edgar
Cadaver's.
Davids was. But Edgar Davids came to Barcelona for a half season and was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So I think maybe since Edgar Davids, we've not had somebody come for such a short time and be so good like Aubameyang. But when Lewandowski came, then Barca had to let Aubameyang go, even though he didn't mind staying to play
He
with
even play on the wing.
Lewandowski
Yeah,
because again, finances. You can't keep a player as good as him if he's not a starter when you need space in your wage. So we have to
yeah.
let him go. And he still talks about his time at Barca, even though it was so short. So he actually loved it. So I guess it was mutually beneficial for both parties. I was a bit disappointed. Madrid was great, but I think sometimes Xavi's inexperience showed. His man management was probably not great. The physical management of the players we see this season with some of and it's not the fans saying it, but some of the players came to say that look, physically we are in the best shape that we've ever been, and that we are able to be intense for 90 minutes. We're not able to do that last season. Sometimes it's interpreted as a dig at Xavi, but it's really not. It's the truth. You don't expect the players to not tell the truth because you think it will
Yeah.
affect Xavi. Nah, I don't think it's that deep. Yeah. So I think coming to this season, the expectations are low or were low, but now that the team is doing well, some people are saying we are winning the treble. Let's count.
Yeah,
Let's count.
I want. Yeah, I wanted.
Go on.
Yeah, now I wanted to actually even ask that question to like bring it to the last part of it. Are we seeing a resurgence of Barcelona? are we saying Laporta's mechanics has worked? Are we seeing a resurgence of Barcelona? Because coming into this new season, we saw that there was a huge focus on Masia, and everyone just said, well, they are going back to academy football, so we were just expecting you to survive, right? But here you are, top of your like within the Champions League, doing very well in the group, top of the league table, doing very well in the cups. Your players are some of the best, playing some of the best football in the world right now. But there are a lot of people who have questioned the sustainability. One, in terms of the tactics, people say the high line won't work all the time, won't work all season. They say the physicality is something as young players who are 16, 17, like it's ridiculous. 17 years, 19 years, won't be able to sustain it all season. People still think you need some signings, especially in key areas like the midfield, like players like Frankie de Jong. Clearly looks like they're out of their depth. So you don't have squad depth, and therefore you need some key signings in there. You need backup to players like Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal. Like Lewandowski, for example, we know the struggles that he had last season, and people just fear that he can't keep up this form. So you need like a proper number 9. People still think you need like a right winger. So is this really the season where we are sort of like seeing how things go, or really these are the signs that Barcelona is getting to the top and can it be sustained?
So I think that the squad is not deep enough. The only area where we have squad depth is centre back. But even that is on paper, because in actual fact, Christensen and Araujo are injury prone. Currently, they are out. Araujo is due back in a few weeks. Christensen, no one knows when he's fit, when he's going to be fit. Ubasi is playing well, but he's 17. So ideally, you shouldn't depend so much on a 17-year-old. His partner in defense is 34 years. So too young and too old. Eric Garcia is the one who is supposed to be at the age where he should be good enough. But Garcia has lapses in concentration. He's
not a grade A
his
defender.
decision making is not great. He's a good player, but I don't know. I think the kind of potential he had in La Masia, his weaknesses have not been improved since then, which is a problem. So, but he's a good enough squad player. So we have 5 centre backs. That's the deepest part of the squad. We have only one number 9, Lewandowski.
Crazy.
Right. Or you let me begin from the defense, right? As for the goalkeeper situation, it is what it is. There's Stegen and Inaki Pena, and because they're Stegen is injured, we got Chesney to come out of retirement, all of that. And it's curious that Flick didn't throw Chesney in straight away and decided to give confidence to Pena. When Chesney came in, I think Pena has done okay. He has done well. It's not been perfect, but he has done better than people thought he would do, because nobody wanted to go into the Bayern and Madrid games with Inaki Pena and Post, but he did well in those games. Now, right, because the biggest problem for me, Kunde is a centre back. Under Xavi, he protested so much about playing a right back that there was that if he doesn't play at centre back, he would leave. Right. Somehow they were able to sort it out, and so he stayed. But like, he didn't want to play a right back. But for some reason, Flick has convinced him. Now he's playing a right back regularly. I don't think he has a problem playing a right back now. So we will say he's a right back now. His substitute is Hector Fort. Now, Hector Fort was very good last season. Xavi even played him at left back teams.
Yeah.
And he was good in his games. But for some reason, Flick doesn't rate him. So Flick barely plays Fort unless he absolutely needs to rest Kunde. So we didn't play him often. Left back, Balde is the starter. Now, last season, Balde didn't start the season well. He got it. And when he got injured, I think Cancelo was moved to left back. Cancelo at left back, attacking wise, he would help you, but he's a defensive liability.
Yeah.
Right. He cost us those PSG games. Now, now that Cancelo is not, Alex Valley was supposed to have been Balde's deputy, but for some reason, Flick decided to send him out on loan and then rely on Gerard Martin from the. Nobody knows or nobody rated Gerard Martin to be a good player. Flick somehow likes him. Flick is pushing for him to be given a renewal, but every time Martin has played, it's clear he's not exactly a great player. So no one knows really what Flick is seeing. But I mean, he's the coach, so Martin plays left back when Baldo is not playing, and it's clear that he's not on Baldo's level.
Yeah.
He's not. He's just okay, but he's not great. But
Yeah.
I mean, he's who the coach wants. Okay. You go to midfield, there are two pivot positions or the two interiors before the defenders. We started with Bernal and Casado. Remember, we made Romeo go. We were not able to
Yeah.
bring in replacements. We wanted Basetic after Bernal got injured. We didn't get, so we had to rely on Casado and Pedri. Now, Eric Garcia, when he was fit, Flick used to play him there.
Yeah.
So you could play Garcia and so when Olmo got injured, we were playing Garcia and Casado, then Pedri in almost position.
Yeah.
Right. Now Garcia is injured. Christensen should ideally on paper be a good fit there, but Christensen is also injured.
Injured.
So you only have Casado and Pedri now. Good news is Gavi is back. Right.
Yeah.
Ideally, I think when Gavi is 100% fit, Gavi starts in one of those slots.
Yeah.
There's a bit of depth, but still, you also have Frankie De Jong. We've almost forgotten about him, but he's on high wages. He will do a good job for you, but
Defensive liability again.
I won't even say he's a defensive liability. He's just, you can get a good performance from him if you play him with a more defensively sound player. He's good in possession. He's a good carrier, but he has a few lapses. But he's generally a good player. Like, if we could afford to keep a player like him who is not absolutely essential, it would make sense. But I don't think the club can.
Yeah.
The that's coming in can sustain the club without Frankie De Jong. Getting De Jong's wages off the books will help you financially so much. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they will do with De Jong, but I think if they can move him on in the summer, they should. Except I think he wants to run down the contract and leave for free in 2026.
Which is
I think
crazy.
that's what
Which is
which is
crazy.
crazy, but unfortunately, a contract is a contract, so he's allowed to do that. I don't know what will happen in 2025. Maybe he will be convinced to leave back because his wages are insane for a player that we can do without. He's not good,
Yeah.
but if Bernal is back, Bernal, Casado, Gavi, Pedri,
Yeah, should be
these
fine.
four can play in those two slots perfectly. Right, should be fine. So then you go into the top four attacking spots. You have Olmo. I think when everyone is fit, Olmo should be the number one contender for the team. You have Lamine on the right wing. He's playing so well, people forget his age. We shouldn't be having to play him every game. I think that's a problem. It's too many games. Either that or Flick should, once we go 3 goals up, take him off. Even if it's at halftime,
Yeah.
take him off. Because you want to play him every game anyway. So just take him off when the lead is very secure. Ansu Fati, I don't know.
He's injured again.
I like him so much, but
He's injured
don't know.
again.
I don't know how I can give him a chance, but I don't know. honestly, the club should do, but I don't know. It's it is honestly getting worrying now. I think
I think
club
there's
might
always
have
you
to.
just need to let them go. Like you really
Yeah,
do. I know
but you
he's
know the way he burst onto the scene and everybody liked him.
yeah.
Charlie
I
letting
think
him go now will be some way.
yeah, but because he went to Brighton, it was the same story. He plays a couple of games,
Yeah,
he gets injured. It's quite clear he needs like regular game time. Like I've seen
very
such
very
as
unfortunate.
Chelsea. You need
Very very
regular game
unfortunate.
time. You need to be playing regularly, hopefully at a level where you can show and you can be dominant in the game. So, but it's interesting to see that there's not a lot of pressure on him, and he can sort of come in for Rafinha when like Rafinha is
Yes.
tired.
But you see, what I don't understand is in the summer there was so much excitement about him because everybody close to the club says, look, he's absolutely killing it in training and Flick loves him so much. But unfortunately, just before they flew for preseason, he got injured. So he couldn't take part in the preseason. The beginning of the season, he was out. But like everybody was waiting that once he comes, he'll be good to
Business as usual.
go. But a few games he's had, I don't know, he looks a bit off it. But I
Yeah,
guess if the coach still believes in him, that's fine. And his wages are not insane. He can still be kept as a squad player. Shouldn't be a problem.
yeah,
Then there's this kid called Paul Victor. Now, Paul Victor was bought from Girona for 3 million euros. He was really good in preseason. Right wing, left wing, number 9. Really good. I think even now, if Lewandowski is not fit, he should be the 9. Yeah, I think
yeah.
Paul Victor should be the 9. He's good, but I mean, he's young.
He
He
needs
has
some
his
time.
own weaknesses. He needs time. You are not depending on him for 90 minutes, but you need an attacking body to join for the last 15 minutes. Perfect player. I've already talked about Pablo Torre. Very good, but not intense enough. But
Yeah.
he knows how to score goals. Within the few games he's had to score goals. Fermin Lopez, Javi's best decisions was bringing Fermin back from loan. So he went on loan to I think the third division or second division. He was about to be to Poland or other place like that, and then Javi said, "Look, let him come, let him have a preseason, and let's see." Preseason, he scored in a Clasico and a few other games, and he looked very like
Sharp.
determined, very sharp, right?
Yeah,
So Javi decided to keep him squad player. Like what could go wrong? But he did very well last season.
yeah,
I think he scored like 10 goals, even though he barely started. So he did very
yeah.
well.
And in the Euros, he was top scorer, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The Olympics, you mean?
Olympics, yeah, and Olympics under
Yeah, yeah,
23.
yeah. So very well. This season, I think when Omo is not fit, Flick ideally prefers Pedri not at the 10, but beside the DM. So then Fairman will be the one to play.
Hmm.
Even when Rafinha is not fit, I think he's also good at left wing. The only problem is Rafinha, his original position is supposed to be right wing.
Yeah.
But he's not been good when he plays right wing. Like he's now a totally different player if you move him from the left.
Yeah, it's
Even
crazy.
at the 10, he would give you a good performance at 10. But if you send him to the right, I really don't know what's going on with him. So it's a problem. Now, to talk about your sustainability bit, I think that's the last thing I'll mention. So you ask the next question. The problem with the high line is not that teams will find it out or anything, in my view. The problem with the high line is you are not just playing the high line, it's high pressing first. So Lewandowski and Rafinha are pressing high,
Yeah,
and so everybody has to come because you can't keep like more
gaps.
than a certain
Yeah,
distance between your different lines. So you can't have like a low block when Rafinha and Lewandowski are pressing high.
yeah,
Sense. So because we are pressing high, the defense line has to be high. The problem with that is physical intensity. We don't have that deep squad. So for how long will we? Maybe when Araujo and Christensen are back, when Gavi is 100% ready to start, Frankie de Jong's injury issues are behind him, Eric Garcia is back, Ansu Fati finds his form, all those things have to come together, and for us to be absolutely lucky with injuries, for us to be able to maintain it for the whole season, right?
Yeah.
So in the world where we are able to have all these things coincide and happen at the same time, then it's possible that we can keep up this tactic for the whole season. And as for that one, if we're able to do that for the whole season, then of course in the league we'll win this. Maybe they'll be right, but I think it's unlikely. It's unlikely that injuries would vanish when everybody comes and we'll have a fit squad for the whole season. I think these guys will come, even if they stay fit the whole season. Some of those who are fit now might also get injured, and so the squad is not deep enough to win the things that the football now suggests that we can win. So I think eventually, maybe the league, we might be able to win the league, but that would mean that we need to go on a significantly long winning run, because Madrid is not playing well, but they are not too far behind in the league. They are not playing well, but they are grinding out the results. So
Yeah.
yes, they are not playing well. Barca trashed them 4-0, but the difference now is
3.
yes, 6 points. But Madrid have a game in hand, so if they win that game in hand, it's just 3 points for all the talk about how good we've been and how poor they've been. So
Yeah.
if there's daylight, yeah.
I was going to I was going to end the session with that question, right? Because all of Barca's success is viewed from the perspective of what Madrid is doing.
Definitely.
And the thoughts in here, without going too much into what Real Madrid is also trying to do. Last season we saw that, well, this is a patched up team, right? Like, this is a team that just lost Benzema, lost a lot of people, lost a lot of defenders, didn't replace them, and they almost had an invincible season. So adding Mbappe would raise the level higher. But we've not seen it pan out, and they seem to be having internal issues with players' egos, like what the players' positions are and things like that. I just want to get from you, what's the feeling right now in the camp? Is it that we've got Madrid where we want them to be, and it looks likely that the Barca project would overtake them? People are also sounding the story of Xabi Alonso coming in. Do you think all of these things are capable of changing the fortunes of Madrid mid-season or after the season, and it's something that Barca should be wary of?
Well, from where I said, I want them to lose games. They are not losing enough.
Of course.
They are not losing enough games. Actually, they are losing. But on a more serious note, I think if you were a Barca fan, this is like the things happening are the perfect scenario you would have wanted. If they asked you to say what you wanted to happen to Madrid, this is what you would have wanted. But they are not losing in enough games, which shows how good the squad is. Despite their struggles, they still have the individual quality to grind out wins.
Yeah.
But if they don't sort out the issues they have, eventually they'll lose more games. What would happen is, when you are losing, everything goes wrong, and everything is amplified. Issues that when you are winning, because of team harmony, you want to keep, silent. You don't want to talk about it. Now, the players should be willing to talk about them, because look, nobody wants them to point accusing hands at them that you are the cause. Right? So if there's a problem between maybe Vinicius and Mbappe, if the team is winning, they would, keep up some
appearances.
We like that we are playing for the team. But when they are losing and they are constantly blaming one or the other, you get frustrated and come and voice out your frustrations and say, look, it's not my fault, this happened. But I think for Mbappe, it was clear he's not enough. But they just thought he's good enough to do well there, even if he's not a 9.
Yeah.
What we've seen is running into Vinicius's way a lot of them. He's not a better left winger than Vinicius.
No, he's not.
He's not. Uh-huh. So now that's the problem. You cannot sacrifice Vinicius for him. So much in him. The marketing forecast that you made with him in mind, you can't give up on him so early. You have to persist with him. Even if you wanted to give up on him, you don't even have any other 9 to try out. So what are you going to do? Unless you do what you did last season and play Jude Bellingham as a false 9.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it seems if Bellingham is not at false 9, he's also not doing too well this season, which is a bigger problem in my view. Because Tchouaméni is not doing well in midfield. Modric is almost 40. So they have problems. But I think they have enough quality to recover.
Yeah.
They have enough quality to recover and win the league, if you ask me. I still think that they are favorites for the league because I don't think they will not solve their issues before January. I think they'll sort it out. And sort it out. They have a deeper squad in theory. And so ideally, I expect Barca to still have maybe issues with some injuries here and then. If the Barca squad is not fit, as I said, the high pressing and high line go hand in hand. If you don't have a deep squad, you can't sustain it, and that will be a problem. I still think Madrid should be favorites. They are just 3 points behind now, or let's say 6, but with a game in hand. It's not a lot. 6 points is not a lot after what? 12, 13 games. It's 13 games. It's not a lot. Just done a third of the season. There's so much more football to go. Champions League, though, I think they are in a bit of trouble now.
Yeah. But they just need to make it out of the group stages.
Yeah.
Right? Once they're
even if they are not in the top 8, which is unlikely or let's say unthinkable, but even if they don't make top 8, they will still make the playoffs, and I think they should comfortably make it out of the playoffs. And so, and they always pick February going, so no one should count them out. Even though I really wish I could count them out, but speaking objectively, I don't think you can count them out. And Barca would need extreme luck with injuries to be able to win the league over them. As for the Champions League, I don't think Barca can win the Champions League because it will take too much
toll on the squad.
Good fortune in terms of squad depth and everything to do it. The squad is not experienced to win the things that the football now suggests that we can win. But the coach is good enough, experienced enough. So maybe we have a chance. But realistically, I think the league is what we can realistically hope to win. The Champions League will be a bit too far, but I just want to enjoy the team. If we end up winning the Champions League, obviously, we'll take that. We'll be happy. But I don't want to have that expectation because I don't think it's realistic. That's my view. I don't think it's realistic. Obviously, if it happens, great news, but I don't think it's a realistic expectation. This young squad, no one should give himself that false expectation that they are good enough to win the side. That if they don't win the treble, then you are saying that the team has not done well. Nobody was expecting them to even win anything in the summer. So if they are overachieving, expect that it's likely to regress a bit because they are young. Like they are young. You're either relying on 17-year-olds or 36 and 34-year-olds. Like the squad doesn't have that balance. The players with the balance are mostly injured or injury prone. Hopefully, if everybody is fit, maybe you can do something. But I just want to enjoy the football. So far, I've enjoyed it and I'm loving every bit of it.
Yeah, I think really like that's the best like closing line because when I looked at Flick's team, because I didn't buy into the hype right from the start of the season. Like I saw the preseason games and the kids were just tearing City and Co apart, and I was like, yeah, that's something special, but like I would want to see it being done consistently and against the big teams. And they've shown that it can work. But I think all in all, anyone who looks at this Barcelona story should just be glad because as much as we love to throw Barcelona, they also are a corner piece of what like European football also means to us, and it will be good to see them rise, especially because coincides with the rise of La Masia and produces very exciting players. Like the best player in the squad for me is Pedri. I just love watching Pedri. I can watch him
Absolutely,
all day.
absolutely,
I can just watch him holding
absolutely. He
the
doesn't
ball
have
all
too
day.
many goals and assist numbers, but when you watch him, you know, this guy's
Oh,
good.
God, like it's poetic, and like the way Hans Flick is playing his football is daring, it's challenging.
Yeah,
It almost feels like your heart's in your mouth, right? till till the 60th minute. And I think
madness.
that's refreshing to see, especially in Europe. But there's been lots of
Definitely.
good teams, like lots of good teams coming up. So it will take time for us to see where this kind of football will take them to. But thank you so much for
Yeah.
like sharing the story and for shedding the light on.
Thank you for having me. The time has flown by so fast.
Yes, there's still even a lot to discuss. Perhaps we'll do a part two. We'll do a
Yeah, yeah,
review
yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
some point
yeah. I
within.
think we should do a part two later on in the season.
Yeah, we will do a review at some
Yeah,
point in the season to see how these
yeah.
things. But I don't know. Before you go, like any last words you wanted to share with the audience uh,
Ah,
before you dip.
oh, I think the only thing I would want to say is that look, right now the football the team is playing is good. The young players coming up, seeing how they are developing, now they are playing above their ages. Excellent. I think what Flick has done has justified the decision Laporta took to sack Xavi.
Mm.
I still think he should have made Xavi go, not go and beg him and then sack him. But in the context of what Xavi said, as in, look, don't give us pressure because the team cannot compete. Flick
Mm,
comes and he takes that same team that cannot compete and he's playing the football that people thought Xavi's team should be able to play.
should be playing. Yeah.
So if he is able to keep it up, then definitely the decision is justified. But at the same time, I think, and for the fans, I think people should stop. Like some of the disrespect towards Xavi is crazy. Like let's calm down. Let's all calm down. Let's all calm. He won us a league. Don't forget, he won a league. He won a league. Let's all be calm and
Okay.
give him the
All right.
respect he deserves as a legend. I want to give a shout out to my
What we
Barcelona
got?
WhatsApp group, Barcelona aficionados. When the link is out, I'll send it to them. I want to give them a shout out to all my
Yes.
guys there. If I mention names and I don't mention Sam, they'll kill me. So I'll mention it for this team because Charlie. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. We should get. Like I would love to do more of this and get like fan perspectives on teams, because I realize that I am Chelsea and I realize that other people from other clubs don't follow your football club as much as you do. When you say things, they say you are biased, but the truth is that
Yeah.
you follow more closely and you have like a much more detailed picture. But it
I
was
always like a fan's view. I always
yeah,
like a fan's view.
exactly. But it was absolutely lovely having you here finally
Thank you
on the
so much.
podcast.
I've
Thank you so
thoroughly
much.
enjoyed it.
Yes. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Shafts podcast, and we'll see you for the next episode. Bye bye.